Welcome to the number one show and the source of truth for all things MedTech. Here, we reveal the secrets and stories behind the investments, science, and commercialization of the MedTech industry. Every week, we'll take you on a wild ride with the biggest names in the game, from entrepreneurs and investors who are shaking up the market to healthcare providers who are revolutionizing the way we think and practice medicine. So hold on tight and get ready for a journey like no other. This is the State of MedTech. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, and this is another episode on our marketing series where essentially we bring on marketing leaders to talk about all things marketing. As many of you know, despite my focus and interest in sales, I really built my career actually in marketing. And so today's episode, we have Amanda Bloom, who's the VP of Product Marketing over at Radiaction Medical. I have Amanda on because she has a really interesting background. She started her MedTech career as a product manager, but then really kind of catapulted from there. She was at NuVasive for 8 years and started off as a manager and ended her career there as the director of global product marketing. Spent time as a senior director of product marketing over at Zimmer Biomet. She was a VP of product marketing over at Avail Med Systems, and more recently now she's the VP of marketing at Radiaction. So she's dealt with a lot of different sales teams, launched I think over 16 different products, and more importantly, moving from the product management role into a more in my opinion, like commercial marketing role is an interesting one. So we cover a lot of interesting topics on this episode. Amanda's really fantastic, and I really enjoyed the conversation and definitely want to have more people like her back on the show. Now, with that being said, a couple things I want to make sure that I plug. Number one is my amazing sponsor, Clary. If you're a MedTech company with Salesforce as your CRM, I highly recommend using Clary. Clary is an AI-focused platform specifically on revenue collaboration and governance. We are in a complicated selling environment these days, and being responsible for revenue is not something that's just for the sales team. It's something that needs to be done across the organization, from customer success to marketing to sales. And the way that's done is obviously through data. Problem, though, is that most of your reps probably hate entering data into Salesforce. And then more importantly, the data is getting in with a lot of bias. It's not clean. And also when you try and run, weekly or monthly reports, let's face it, that's why a lot of marketing people hate Salesforce, because it's a huge pain. Clary makes this all seamless and very easy. Their platform essentially integrates seamlessly into Salesforce. It automates a lot of the data entry, helps you run reports, and more importantly, be able to predict revenue. They recently just acquired another great company called Groove, which just takes their platform on another level because it helps with a lot of sales activities. And again, when it comes to sales, the one thing that marketing wants to be able to see is to understand what are the daily activities and weekly activities sales is doing, and how do we use data to predict what deals are going to close and where should sales focus their energy on. I wish I had Clary when I was a marketer. I highly recommend you get it. And if you're a company who hasn't invested in a CRM, they've worked with a lot of life science companies and medtech companies to help them figure out the best level of Salesforce to get. So to learn more about them, I recommend go to clary.com, CLARI.com, or click the show notes below. Book a demo, get an analysis with their team. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, big fan of their platform and more importantly, their mission about helping revenue-driven companies elevate to be able to predict and be precise when it comes to revenue. On the other front, I partner with a new company called Alpha Sophia. Whether it's Definitive Healthcare or any of these other larger platforms, I think having access to a data set and more importantly, data around your physicians, their prescribing behaviors, their procedure volume, what societies they're part of, that really helps your sales team figure out who to target. The problem is a lot of these companies, they just cost an arm and a leg. And I don't know about you, when I worked in startups, I never ended up using them because they just cost too much. And the other thing is that as a startup or launching a new product, focusing on early adopters was really what I was most interested in. And I always felt that these databases just didn't help that. Well, Alpha Sophia is completely different. Alpha Sophia focuses on developing the right data set so you can essentially accelerate your product adoption and find and engage the right physicians in the technology adoption cycle, specifically those early adopters. The best part about this, and again, it seems like right when I leave the industry, all these great technologies come out. Alpha Sophia starts at just $300 a month. And so it's an amazing platform. I really love it. And probably the best part of it is that we coordinate a lot together. So one thing they've just added to their database is for you to not just see the procedure volume and of course other data points on your targeted physician. You can also see their social media. So they tack on their Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram profiles, so you can see exactly what your physicians are doing, and more importantly, you can identify these sort of diamond in the rough early adopters who might not be the chair of the department, but might have a very strong network, which again, think about when it comes to driving product adoption these days. So you can get a free profile from Alpha Sophia, meaning that if you're a sales rep or head of marketing, go to alphasophia.com. That's alphasophia.com/Omar. That's alphasophia.com/Omar. They're going to give you 3 physician profiles for free. I told them, hey, I have no problem getting people, to check out a demo from you guys, but you need to give something of value. So technically, they're going to walk you through a demo, but in this demo, you're going to tell them which physicians you want to target. They're going to give you 3 free profiles. I highly recommend you take advantage of that. And lastly, and again, thanks for staying tuned through these sponsorships. If you're a medical device company or a medtech company of any type, you're a head of marketing, you're trying to figure out how do we get more engagement with our content? Maybe how do we get more people to our booth? I know a lot of conferences are coming up. Well, I've partnered with a great company called CMify, which allows me to use an online portal to add a CME credit to almost anything. That's right, almost anything. The way we're able to do that is because the old traditional CME, you actually just, you pay a lot of money, $20,000, $30,000. Your content is given CME eligibility, and then the doctor shows up. Maybe they fall asleep during a webinar or a dinner presentation or something, and they get the CME credit. That's it. The platform that I use allows me to add a CME credit to your content, whether that's an in-booth demo, a virtual presentation, a webinar, blog, and the doctor or clinician, whether it's a physician's assistant, nurse, surgeon, etc., has to click a link and reflect, right, to decide what's CME eligible. The benefit about that is that on my end, I'm able to gather all the exact responses and turn back to you as the marketing department and say, hey, of the 200 physicians who submitted their CME for this content of yours, 75% of them focused on this one specific area. That's probably what you should make more content around. That's where you should create more messaging around. So again, you get qualitative data on this. So if you're interested in that, whether it's adding that CME to your booth demo or maybe a webinar or anything else, hit me up, go to khateebandco.com and just book a meeting with me there, or just simply send me a message on LinkedIn. All right, now with that being said, let's get on to the show. Here's our episode with Amanda Bloom. Enjoy. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Another marketing episode. I know that a lot of you have been complaining and saying, hey, man, you built your career in marketing. You haven't had much marketing episodes, but now we're doing more of them. And so today I'm joined by a good friend, Amanda Bloom, who's the VP of product marketing over at Radiaction. Really great career marketing. And so, she and I, we both see very much eye to eye in terms of that marketing is responsible for commercial revenue. And it's really like one team. And so kind of want to talk to you, Amanda, a little bit about not just your career, but your advice to marketers, because there isn't exactly a course or even a blog that kind of explains like, what does it take to kind of progress in your career as a marketer in the medtech industry. And you've had a really great career. You were director of global product marketing over at Nuvasive. You're senior director over at Zimmer Biomed. You're VP of product marketing over at Avail. And now you're VP of marketing again at Radiaction. So maybe like a good place to start is to kind of tell our listeners like a little bit about you, like where are you from, where'd you grow up, and how'd you end up in this industry? Because with the exception, I think, of like Henry Peck, whose dad was in the industry already, like I don't think anybody is graduating college saying, yeah, I'm going to go into medical devices.
Yeah. No, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. Talking about my favorite topic, product marketing, and how truly important it is as, a key spoke in the wheel of commercial. It's one commercial engine. How I've grown up in my career is really that there's a blurred line between marketing and sales. And marketing's job is to know our customers and help provide the tools, the talk tracks, the resources, the physical presence, of growing our customer base and our awareness about the technologies that we're so lucky to represent. A lot of us are very fortunate in our careers to represent some really novel, innovative technologies. That's been my path. I've been really fortunate. I'd say it kind of started off as luck, and then with a little bit of intelligence just through experience, made very prescriptive career moves around technologies that are novel in this space that have never been done before, because there's nothing more exciting than bringing a technology that really fulfills an unmet clinical need to the market, building that market awareness, being part of commercial, being on the front lines, being in with the customers, and just hearing what they have to say or what they don't like, and then building a brand from there. So a little bit about me. I am originally from New York. I grew up right outside the city, very proudly born in Brooklyn with the rest of my family, but we grew up outside the city. And in college, I always knew that I wanted to be in the medical field, but I didn't necessarily want to be a treating physician. I had a lot of access and exposure to what that lifestyle was. And I just knew in my heart it wasn't for me. I didn't know why, right? You don't have a frame of reference when you're that age. And you're absolutely right. When you go through university, there's no, hey, there's so many different ways to be part of medical. And I think we all just think it's treating physician, it's nurse, it's whatever, and that's wonderful. But I didn't know that there was this whole industry side of the fence where you can really truly be part of innovating the space and helping treat patients too, just from a different angle. So, it was funny. Somebody just a family friend said, you remind me of those pharmaceutical reps that come into my office. He was a physician, and I was like, "What's that?" And got to meet someone, and I was like, "Yeah, I understand. Like this is great. I really am interested in what you do." And I got an internship in college at a spine practice in New York City. And so I took the train into New York City every day, and I was part of the clinical trial for what was then the Charité artificial disc. So it was the first lumbar artificial disc technology to be brought to market by J&J. Who I didn't know any of that. I was on the clinical side, so I was helping enrolling patients and what does it take to do the 6, 9 month, 12-month follow up, and just knowing that I was seeing these patients who are just raving about their results, and I was like, wow, this is really great. So comes senior year of college, start interviewing, and nobody in pharmaceutical wanted to hire somebody without experience, in sales. Nobody in medical did, and I was like, well, this is hard. So I just got really lucky. I moved to Boston. I stayed in Boston where I went to school. I went to Tufts, and Johnson and Johnson happened to have a new college or a new, higher program where if you were 1 to 2 years outside of any educational program, it was almost come in as an associate. And when I interviewed, I was like, oh, wait, I made the connection. I was like, hey, I worked on Charité. And so I ended up becoming an assistant product director, working on Charité at J&J at DePuy Spine just after they had launched the artificial disc. So it was an incredibly formative time in my career because I jumped into this space that never was developed before. How do we educate physicians on a new market, a new technology, reimbursement, just everything that you could possibly throw at somebody, I learned. And many people at J&J at the time said, Amanda, you're getting 10 years of experience in just your first year. And so I was just really fortunate how that all came together. I think we know the story of where lumbar artificial discs have gone, but, learned a ton from that. And that just really motivated me and made me want to be part of this industry even more, where we were working with physicians on the design, the development of the new technology. We were working with reimbursement. We were working with clinical teams to support the validation of the technology. It wasn't just, putting brochures out there and telling our salespeople what to say. You were truly, truly part of just every function that had to be united in order to bring a really first to market product to life. So learned a ton there. And it just, like I said, it just really drove my interest and desire to really only be part of forward thinking new market technologies.
That's fantastic. So there's something I wanted to kind of go back to, if is, you spent the first, like the start of your career as a product manager, and then, when you were at Nuvasive, you went from like a senior product manager to a group product marketing manager. So for the audience, there's a lot of like young product managers out there. How do you define product management versus product marketing? And then what do you need to do to make that transition,
Great question. That's a great question because different organizations certainly break up their product marketing, product management differently. From my perspective, in my career, I always owned the technology from cradle to grave, which was product management and product marketing combined into one. So when I say I was assistant product manager, all throughout my career at Nuvasive, I owned from the design, the development, working with the engineering team, working with our physician design team. What are the inputs? What are the requirements to then shift into the marketing world and bring that product to market? What is the messaging? What are the tools? What are the collateral? How do we train and educate our sales team? And so I've always owned cradle to grave. And so I learned kind of the hard way going to different organizations what product management is to some people, what product marketing is to some people. And so, the way I see it is I think I'm fortunate. It's a big job to own that whole entire spectrum, but I think it really behooves that product marketer to be part of it from the very beginning, because then you really know the nuances of the technology, you know the nuances of the market, you understand what the user requirements have to be. And so what's going to really kind of light somebody's eyes up when you say, when you have to do X, Y, or Z in a procedure, this is what this does for you. Oh, so you get that experience. And not to say one is bad, right? It's just, I think when you break up product management and product marketing, it's that much harder of a job between the product manager and the product marketer to really overlap and to really make sure that the product marketer is brought in a little bit more in the upstream process, and the product manager is really brought in the downstream process, the marketing side, to make sure that it is a cohesive message about the technology. So I don't know if that helps or not, but there is a difference. And so what I would recommend when people are interviewing is, what do you define product management versus product marketing? Upstream is more, design, development, innovative, all that. Downstream, product marketing. Do you break up product management, product marketing, upstream, downstream? And some people just gravitate towards one or the other. And so it's a really beautiful thing when they are broken down that way. But it's important to know when you are interviewing, when you are talking to organizations, so you know what you're signing up for and you know what your expectations are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think like this is my one critique of the industry is just that, and for me, I was groomed by sales execs. And so when I went to marketing, I only thought of it as, well, it's not that I only thought of it. I thought as like when I thought of upstream and design, everything, I was like, that's product management. That's not what we do in marketing. My thing in marketing is like we drive product adoption and grow revenue. And so then when I talked to other marketers, this is a long time ago. I mean, a lot of their stuff was just like product management and like doing design labs and everything. And I was like, well, that's great. But I was like, that's not marketing.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, like what I often see in the industry. I mean, you're kind of an example of like a career path that people should take. But I usually see people, they like progress in product management, right? And then at some point they get put as like a director or head of marketing or something, but they lean so hard on their upstream experience that that's kind of like what they focus on. And then the downstream stuff ends up being kind of like an afterthought. And I think this is kind of why in our industry, marketing is looked at as a service organization to sales, where it's like, oh, that's where we go to complain about like getting new brochures and stuff. And marketing just kind of does it and just kind of goes along with it. And then so that way they can go back to focusing on the thing that they're comfortable with, which is like product management. And I think that's like it's like terrible. Like it's really frustrating to me to see that. I think that's why salespeople, most most sales teams in the industry don't respect marketing because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a service organization,
You hit
a
it.
cost center.
You hit it
Yeah.
right on the head. And so when I come to new organizations, it's so important for me to reframe. I was like, no, no, no. This is how we're going to do it. This is why you should trust us with your customers and getting into the accounts and being part of the sales process with you. And there is a rebuilding of trust. And, I think my career was formative in driving that. And I would say my time at NuVasive was a real definition of what the expectation of product managers, product marketer, again, we owned it the full spectrum, and that it was no, no, no. You need to know your customers. You need to be in those procedures. They will know if you're talking to them and you don't know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So we were all
Completely agree.
very challenged, and that's where marketing and sales really were true partners. So you see anybody who left kind of that train of education, I would say real world education, has this expectation of marketers, but it's so I would say it's not a majority in the medical device industry, because you're right, that's exactly how the medical device industry has come up. And I feel really fortunate to be someone who's like, no, 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 this is what you should, how you should tap into us and how we need to be part of it, because we could be extra feet on the street. We can be extra, messaging from the ethers that's really here to drive your commercial excellence. So you just said it absolutely perfectly. And it's really great when you can change hearts and minds of your sales partners in an organization, and you really become, the right hand, the left hand. That's the kind of organization that I like to help create, be part of, the expectations that I, like to set on my teams that I'm fortunate to lead.
So you mentioned about changing the hearts and minds of like the sales organization. One thing I feel that marketing does a really bad job of is marketing itself internally. I mean, what kind of things did you do in the past to sort of bridge that gap between sales and marketing, but then more importantly, to kind of like highlight what marketing was doing, so
Yeah.
that way there was like more appreciation for it and support.
Yeah, I think it's just show, right? It's show that you're aware of their challenges, show that you understand the sales process, show that you understand the customer requirements. Be part of bringing some suggestions, and then again, your presence with them on sales calls or at meetings, see how you hold yourself in front of customers, and just there's a lot of of needing to show until they believe. But also just, again, I'm here to be your partner. I'm here to be your partner. I'm here to help you drive, the organization forward. And, this is what this person on this team is going to do to help you. This is why this person is going to be valuable at this point in the sales process. This is where you should tap into us. These are the tools that we can create. That, I think it's just learn by doing and just being that presence, who just understands. I think salespeople feel a lot of people are coming at them. What are your numbers? Where's your performance? And it's like, hey, I know this physician here. How can I help you build that relationship? How can I help open this door? I've worked on this, or this. This might be a good meeting for us to go to together, where we can talk to the KOLs there and build the relationship. And I think it's just showing that you're really a true partner, and building the team around one universal goal, breaking down those silos and saying, look, I'm not going to create tools to create tools. What do you need? If you need an ROI calculator, great, let's talk about it. But the worst thing is to just throw content out there for the sake of it. The salespeople just don't need. It's really understanding, again, what the market dynamics are and what the requirements are.
No, I totally agree. And I think that more marketers need to learn how to push back and like stand their ground on certain things, not just with sales, but also with the board. Because, especially in the startup world, like you'll end up with a board member who thinks that they know what's best for marketing. Sometimes they do. A lot of times they don't. They're just, they just have an opinion that they don't even know why they have it. But one of the things that I think is super important, I'm sure you can relate to this. This is why I was like excited to have like a marketer on, is like, there's always like a sales rep or group of them who come to marketing and they're like, we need this one thing. It's like a brochure or something ridiculous. I'm like, okay, got it. So like I make this one thing. we're going to you're going to close more deals. Like, this is the one thing that's preventing you from closing more deals. Usually that shuts people up pretty quickly. How do you manage like that relationship when you have like really needy salespeople who are probably not even using all of the tools, but they think this like one thing is the thing that they need? Like,
You're absolutely right.
how do you navigate that conversation?
I mean, again, you're just like taking the words out of my mouth. That's exactly it. Okay, this is going to help unlock a door for you. Absolutely. Walk me through it. What does it look like to you? Help me develop it, like be the voice of customer that I need. And okay, so this is going to drive, that deal, that sale. No, but then you'll uncover something else that actually might be really, really valuable and important. And again, I think it's just, you're in sales. Sales is building relationships. Marketing is building relationships. And you have to be seen as a true partner to your salespeople, the ones who scream the most, the ones who are the quietest, and just do their job. It's just like, hey, what's going on? Can I understand, what are some of the challenges that you have? Walk me through what that customer said to you. Not because I'm asking you and being another person who's measuring your success, but I truly want to know so I can help. And what does that look like? So you're exactly right. It's just understanding the personality and showing them like, I will be absolutely responsive to you 100%. Let's talk it through. And then maybe there's a different solution, but we shouldn't do anything without fully knowing the full story, because time is money, especially in a startup. Every resource, you put together or do anything you put together is in lieu of something else. So is it this or is it that you need? Talk me through. If we have, a piggy bank, like what would you spend your money on and why? So it's just a true partnership. I mean, that's just the best I can explain it, and understanding the why and what is going to move the needle.
When you take over like as a, so again, there's a big difference between being like a marketing manager and like a head of marketing, right? So
Yeah.
you've been a VP more than once at a few companies. What's the biggest transition there? Like, how do what were the things that you kind of struggled with, and what are the advice would you have to, like, like for me, like it was pretty quick where I went from being I was a marketing manager, and then I jumped to being sort of the director, but then in reality, like kind of head of marketing for a couple organizations. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of intense, because like you have the expectations are really high, and you're doing a lot. And especially in my case, like I think in both those situations, like I had like one hire, so I didn't even have much of a team, so it was still like a lot of work. But what's your advice to people who are transitioning to like that VP of marketing role, how they can
Yeah.
prepare for it?
Yeah, no, it's great. I just had a conversation with somebody else about this the other day. It really is truly transitioning from player to player coach. And, in a small organization, you still have to know what's going on. You still have to be part of the development of everything. You still have to own it. Everything lies with you, but you have to shift your thoughts to more strategic thinking. And your job is to now understand where the whole entire organization is going. What are the tools, or what are the programs that your team needs to put in place? Bring your team in to be part of that. Say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? Right? Empower the people that you have. And hopefully it's people's multiple, one, whatever, whoever it is, whatever your team is comprised of, empower them to be part of the solutions too. Because when you're managing people, I think the biggest motivator is when each individual owns something. Right? When you hand something over and here, just finish this, it's not really fulfilling to someone. It wasn't fulfilling to me. It certainly wouldn't be fulfilling to the people that are on my team. So it's, what's an initiative and program that we think is going to serve the greater good of the organization, because you have that strategic awareness, right? You're part of the bigger conversations. Bring the team into it and then say, okay, what programs can you own, Jane? What programs can you own, Jack? Run with it. Let's run with it, and like bring me in at 50%. Bring me in. Let's make sure that, we're on the same page from what I know from the organizational direction, and you can be part of moving that forward. So it is really the balance of letting go, but still overseeing a little bit, removing roadblocks from the top down, and from the bottom up, and then making sure that your employees don't run into one another. That's often a very common challenge, because everybody wants to run, everybody wants to be a part of it, and as a product manager, your job is to own the product, and you're kind of laser focused on your task at hand, but your scope of awareness gets bigger and bigger and bigger the higher up you go. And so, the level of strategic thinking needs to shift as you grow into a people manager, as you grow into leading a team. And again, it's the shift from player coach. It's understanding what motivates each of your employees, making sure they feel part of the whole, and understanding very clearly what your directions and your expectations are and what the organization's directions and expectations are. And I've learned so much from many of the employees that I've been really lucky to have at my team. That's why you have a team. You hire people who don't have who fill skill sets that are gaps within your organization. And because of the greater responsibility I've had, the more exposure I've had to digital marketing, PR, co-marketing, brand, all of these things that maybe as medical device marketers, you could do like 10, 20% of at the end of the product cycle. Like you were saying, we're very focused on upstream. But by bringing in strong team members who have that experience, I've learned a ton. And I've been like, this is great. Run with it. You are the face of this initiative. So it's hard. It's a lot of intangibles. And you're right. There is no roadmap. There's not like, here's a booklet for how you go from associate product manager to senior to group to blah, 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 blah. It's just not. And it's a very kind of nebulous path. So it's hopefully finding people who have done it, seeing what people do, around you that motivate you, seeing what people who do around you that you say, well, I wouldn't do it that way. And I don't really want to. You learn a lot, in that regard too. And just, being genuine, being yourself, being passionate, being motivated, and letting your team shine, is really your job as a leader.
You've been on sort of both sides of the fence in terms of like a large corporation like a Zimmer or a Nuvasive and stuff, and now like also startups. What's your advice to people? There's a lot of people who want to make that transition from like a large corporate, like a Medtronic, a J&J, et cetera, to move into startups.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like a total, especially like making the transition of sales, like it's kind of the same, except you just have like a larger territory, maybe not as much structure. For marketing, I feel like it's a really hard transition. And I tell people all the time, I'm like be ready, because like you're probably gonna cry a few times, like
Yeah.
the first week, probably multiple times. But like, how have you handled that transition? And then like, what's your advice to other people?
Yeah. The best way I feel like I've been able to articulate it is when you go into a startup, you have to know how to live in the gray. There is no black and white, and here's the
Ain't
path,
that the truth? I tell
right?
people you got to get used to going to bed with like multiple fires going on, and that's gonna be like your life for months,
Yeah.
maybe for years.
Yeah. So you have to be able to balance multiple initiatives, live in the gray, look at a blank roadmap, and be able to write something out yourself. And again, it's not a bad thing if you don't have the kind of personality or the experience to do that. But those are things that you need to know about yourself when you move into this startup world. And hopefully that's what people who are hiring in startups know to look for, right? If there's somebody who comes in and there's always, oh, well, they're coming from a big organization where programs and processes and tools are handed and you must do this and you follow this path, if then is very clear, right? And so you can just tell where people will succeed or not. If you see someone who's you have to be creative in a startup again, because you see an empty roadmap, and it's your job to write in where you think the gap should be filled. So that's just something you need to know about yourself. But the reward, I would say, of working in that startup is so incredible, because when you go through those hurdles or you see the fruition, your work come to fruition every day, like every move you make impacts the organization. So you have to be ready to own that too. So it's just a risk reward. Are you somebody who can think outside the box? Are you somebody who is okay in gray? Are you somebody who is okay in today is going to look totally different? And I'm cool with that. It's just being a little bit more nimble. So it's the responsibility of the person who wants to make the shift. And it's certainly the responsibility of the organization who's hiring the people to kind of see personality traits and see experience traits to know, are you going to be that creative type who is going to be able to live in this type of environment, and not just live, but just absolutely kill it and succeed and thrive in this environment? And some people really, really can. And some people, like when I interviewed at my last organization, it was, you're not a big company person. You're a startup person. Just by the way I was talking, about initiatives that I had put together. So I really put the onus on the hiring people in the startups to be very aware of the type of culture that they require, and bringing on the right people who have that same motivation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think like this is where it's kind of unique where if you're in a startup, you hire like a head of sales or VP of sales, usually that person is still good enough and savvy enough where it's like if they have to go and close deals or prospect or something, they can go do it. But a lot of times on the marketing side, what I often see in the startup world is they hire somebody where they haven't done the work in like years. And the first thing that they go is like, oh, well, we need to hire like 2 or 3 people. So like the company's, already doing like a $500,000 spend, if not more, on marketing, which I'm okay with. But I don't know. I feel like as a head of marketing, you should still be able to do some of the dirty work yourself, like, and really understand it and do it, because then like that's the only way you can manage it. And
Absolutely.
again, like I'm just hyper critical of it, which is, I don't know. I feel like the industry has changed a lot. The way doctors buy has changed, but our the average market in our industry has not. And they're
Yeah.
still focused on like upstream and doing KOL development, everything, which is fine. But even the KOL development these days is like outdated. So I'm like, okay, like you're gonna get somebody on podium, but like there's all these digital channels. Like, how are you exploiting those and how are you investing in them and everything? It just drives me nuts. Do you feel the same way? I mean, like, let me ask you the question better. What do you see our industry doing on the marketing side that drives you nuts, that just needs to change?
Yeah. Oh God. It's just,
This is the show to
uh,
pull the gloves off, Amanda, and just
yeah.
just like throw one out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, get rid of the sea of same, get rid of the stodgy, old school mentality and the lack of understanding of digital tools. Think of you as a consumer yourself. How are you sitting at home and receiving the information, right? You're not,
Yeah.
often it's not sitting opening a newspaper. It's, we're scrolling. We're scrolling, we get really quick bits of things. So I try to really explain it that way.
Hmm.
Why should it be different? And again, when you go into a startup, you don't have the resources to hire 75 salespeople to cover every single territory. So our job in marketing is to work and warm the market, create warm leads for you from the ways that people are consuming information. So it is digital, it's webinars, it's LinkedIn, it's utilizing LinkedIn to its biggest, like highest capacity. People don't understand that. HubSpot tools. How do we track what people are engaging with? Because
Isn't it wild that there are some companies that still don't have a CRM?
yeah, yeah,
I don't
or
get it. You know
even
that I won't mention who, but let's just say a couple of the Fortune 500 med tech companies. I've talked to people there, and they're like, "We don't have a CRM." I'm like, "Well, how do you manage things?" They're like, "We have these different spreadsheets and stuff." Like, I'm not kidding you.
yeah,
Isn't that
I get it.
wild?
It's
Like,
wild.
I have
And
a small business and I have a CRM.
yeah, okay, so this was a conversation at a bar with somebody who runs sales, right?
Okay.
And it was, let's explain nurture email. And what does that mean? It means that if we have a database of 100 people, right? And we can see where they're clicking, where they're thinking, what are they opening. Those are buying signals. So just liken it to, you're sitting in a conversation, you see where people lean in, you see where people lean out. You understand where they turn off in a conversation, you understand where they're open to having a next meeting, or sure, I'll read that article, or yes, I'd like to have that coffee with your CEO, or whatever it is. I was like, this is what we can do digitally. With far less expense, and at a greater scale. This is what we're doing. We're nurturing, we're seeing what people are clicking on, we're seeing what people are reading, we're understanding what they're engaging with or they're not. And it's different for every person. And we can say, hey, this one is a warm lead for you because they have done X, Y, or Z. So go get them, right? That took you off of an airplane, that took you off of overnight flight for dinner. That made sure that you have somebody who is open to your conversation, you're not knocking on cold doors. And that's just like how I could simplify it. And I agree with you. I think all of these organizations really have not moved into that, but we need to hire the people who know that. We need to hire the people from consumer marketing who understand the value of digital. I mean, you see your ads are personalized to you, which is creepy as hell, but it works, right?
I'm
After
all
the
I'm
fifth
all for
time.
it, by the way. Like, I don't
Yeah,
mind it. Like, anytime when I want to buy something, I just go on Instagram and I just search it, like a few ads. I'm like, all right, algorithm, do your best.
right. So why wouldn't we adopt the same manner as consumers, are consuming news, consuming information, consuming products? So I'm very passionate about it. But again, I've learned it the hard way. I've learned it through my exposure to smaller organizations who need to scale quickly, don't have the people resources to do it, learning from some phenomenal employees that had the fortune of working with who have taught me all of these things, bringing on the right agencies and learning and really leaning into it. And it's hard because a lot of leaders and organizations are very R&D, commercially operated, right? Don't quite understand it. So I just try to break it down as simply as I can. And I just use you can tell when people are leaning in, you can tell when they're leaning out. This is our way of just softening the market and creating the leads for our organization. So we're not spending our time or resources spinning our wheels on people who just don't care.
Yeah, I think that's probably the worst thing is just, and I think that sales, they end up working so hard that a lot of times, like when you go to a deal rep or deal review and they're reviewing something, you're like, man, there's like no signal that this is even a real deal. Like,
Right.
and we've all been in those meetings where it's like the same salesperson. It's like the second or third quarter in a row, and they're working this one deal. I'm like, man, that's not going. That's a dog. It ain't going nowhere. So just to kind of pivot a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the company you're at, which is Radiaction, and like what are some marketing initiatives that you're focusing on? Because again, I don't want to steal your thunder. So like what's interesting about Radiaction is that it's not it's sort of a product in the background, right? And I've been in a company like that, like Potrero, we had a like AI based critical care monitor, but that was like product in the background. It wasn't something like a robot or something that's like the surgeons directly engaged with, right? So what does Radiaction do? What's the product, and what are some of the initiatives that you're focused on doing to drive adoption?
Yeah, great question. So it is a little different. It is a little bit more front and center than, hey, we're protecting you from, behind the scenes. It is actually a robotic technology. So what Radiaction has done is we've designed and developed a radiation protection technology. We're focusing specifically right now in the cath lab, interventional procedures, electrophysiology, interventional cardiology, because that's where physicians and staff are receiving an exorbitant amount of radiation, scatter radiation exposure. And the studies are out there, the data is out there to show all of these terrible implications of radiation exposure. Cataracts, every physician I talk to, it's like, well, it's a 50-50 chance I'm going to have cataracts, of course, or melanomas, or breast cancers, or brain tumors, especially when you see localized left-sided brain tumors. Well, of course, the physician is standing, they're receiving the imaging beam. So the implications of physicians doing their work and protecting and saving patients is really, really high right now, and the awareness about that. So what our technology is we actually are a robotic technology that we apply as an accessory to the existing C-arm machines. And we deploy at the touch of a button. Whenever a physician wants to take an x-ray, push the radiation machine, the shields deploy, come down, and block the scatter radiation at the source of the imaging beam. So instead of being a reactive technology, or it's a lead apron that they wear or shield that they have to stand behind, it's proactively and dynamically blocking the source of the scatter radiation. So why I came to Radiaction was because one, clicks the box, unmet clinical need. Oh my God, huge need. Physicians are protecting their patients. Who's protecting them? It's unique for me in that it's a technology that truly protects physicians, and it's not a patient-driven technology, which is very interesting and great stories to tell. As a marketer, I was like, this is a marketer's dream, right? What an incredible need. What an incredible technology. It's novel. It's highly technical. It's sophisticated, but simple to operate. And again, a marketer's dream, a product manager's dream, right? It's highly sophisticated. You get into the system, it's technologically cool, unique, dynamic. But to operate, you just push a button. So When I came to Radiaction, it's about a year now. We didn't really have marketing awareness. We didn't have really clear messaging. People didn't know who we were. And that's okay. That's what happens when you just get FDA clearance, right? But again, we talk startup time is money. So really some of the initiatives that I focused on coming in was, what is our unique value proposition? What are the things that separate us from the rest? Because there are other technologies out there, and that's phenomenal, because that just means that there is a need. The market understands that there is a need. There are different types of technologies that can be assembled to do so. But how is ours comprehensive? How is ours unique? How does ours really, differentiate from the others? Because otherwise, everybody else is going to say the same thing. So really figure out our unique value proposition, our messaging. Who is our audience? Who suffers the most from this? Are we being very crystal clear to them? Or are we just kind of blanketing the market? Again, we don't have the luxury of serving every single market out there. We didn't really have web presence. We had a decent website, but it was flat. The usage of a website is the number one tool, tracking, engaging. We redid our website. We did our branding my job in marketing is to make sure that the technology feels as awesome as it actually is. Do justice to the engineers who have designed and developed this novel technology and make it seem technologically forward, or showcase that it is technologically forward. And PR. PR was something we didn't have, right? What are the stories that the market needs to hear, either from physician advocates, testimonials, or just awareness on the risks of radiation exposure and why this is a novel solution. So I would say, really strong on messaging, branding, web presence. We didn't have any social media, or we had very little, whatever. And the team did a great job. Like there was no marketing team in place. So really highlighting social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. We really want to engage with the customers and understand where they hang out. So searching there too. So I would say our digital presence has, quadrupled in the last year. Our web presence and, our PR and just awareness in the market and differentiating who we are.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I was gonna say it's a nice website. What I like about the website is that it's very it takes me a second. I already understand what you guys do and the problem you solve. And I think too many med tech companies they try and be too cool and techy, and I'm at the end of it, I'm just like, I don't know what the hell you guys do. What am I supposed to buy here? So
Yes.
yeah, I do like it, and the B-roll you got going on is really nice. So big fan of that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my job is to make the product shine. And it's an amazing technology. When people see it, they come across the trade show floor, right? So how do we do that from the ethers? How do we do that digitally? And that was, the challenge that we put on our team, and hopefully it's resonating out there. We're seeing some
Yeah,
good
I would
traction.
imagine on the for trade shows, it's a very visual product because it attaches to a C arm, it goes in and out and everything, and so it's definitely something that's nice to catch the eye. I got kind of spoiled starting my career in robotics because it's just so much easier to showcase a technology like that on a trade show floor,
Yeah.
and get attention versus if you have implants or something, it's just harder. I'm so I gotta say because I got even though I'm a big guy on digital and everything, I really got my career started in events because that was
Hmm.
the first massive budget I was given. I was 27 years old. I had a $2 million budget, which I thought was normal back then.
Look out, world.
But at least in spine, I don't know about you, I hate booths that have too many tchotchkes in there, too much swag, or this one company they had a massive chocolate fountain and an espresso machine, and I really hate stuff like that because I feel it outshines the technology in a way, and it's just a distraction. I don't know. I go back and forth. I feel on some side, you should have some things that attract people to the booth to kind of take it easy and enjoy themselves. But on the other side, I'm I want people in this booth who are interested to be in this booth for the
Yeah.
technology, not for the tchotchkes I give out.
Well, it's just like your messaging. It has to be clear, concise, simple, and
Yeah,
clean.
yeah.
And, I would say we do that well at Radiaction. Our booth is just really showcases the product in motion. It's clean. Again, it's technologically forward. So let's look that way. It can't be cluttered. And like you said, it's a very fun product to showcase because there's highly sensor-based technologies. It can be individualized. All the shields can deploy together or independently. So it really showcases the ability to accommodate whatever procedural access. And again, my challenge was, okay, we can do that at a booth, but our salespeople are having to sell to people virtually or live without this robotic system in tow. So how do we make sure we have the tools that make it look as clean and clear and simple? And so that's what we've really been focusing on. And like I said, the reason why I've made every decision in my career was, is this an unmet clinical need? Is this the first to market? Does something like this exist? No. And is it something that I can stand behind and am passionate about? And this totally is. Like I said, when I was like interviewing, I said, this is a marketer's dream to tell this story and showcase this technology. So thank you to the phenomenal engineers who have done a great job. My job is to make their work sing. So it's
No,
been really
totally. Just out of curiosity, you got what conferences do you guys have coming up?
Yeah, great. So we're going to be at TCT in October in San Francisco, huge cardiology meeting.
I really
And
want to go to TCT. I feel like I've been wanting to go to that for a long time.
come join us. I loved it. I came from spine was my background, neurosurgery, orthopedics. And so moving into the interventional cardiology space, one, it's so great. I've moved around in my career because I did want to expand my know-how. I wanted to understand and learn, other disciplines and technologies. And so this has been really fun for me. I got exposure and experience that at Avail because we were servicing we were independent of any procedure. We could be there to help drive telepresence. And so it's been really fun for me to stretch and continue to learn clinically. TCT was a great meeting. It was the first week I started last year, and I went to this meeting and I was just like, wow, people are so clinically engaged and they love our product. So this is fun. But TCT is a great conference.
That's fantastic. So TCT, anything else?
TCT, and then we're going to be at RSNA, which is the biggest radiology conference. It's the biggest conference I've ever seen in my life. I mean,
I hear about RSNA. People have like compared it to HIMSS, and I'm like, man, it's a big comparison. So
it's both sides of the McCormick Place in Chicago Convention Center, a completely
that's
packed.
massive. Yeah, that is really big.
Massive, and it's the same time every year. It's it's in Chicago every year, so it's almost like coming home for everybody. It's really great exposure for us where a lot of the big players, strategics are. So that's our two upcoming meetings, TCT and RSNA. And we were
Awesome.
at HRS just a couple of months ago.
HRS is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
for physiology.
Just as we kind of wrap things up, I wanted to do like a quick rapid fire question. We definitely have to have you back on because I think there are like some marketing topics and episodes I want to start like digging deeper into. So we'll definitely have to have you back on. So quick rapid fire question. First one is for marketers, I think continuing education is really important. Is there a book, a blog, a podcast that you recommend to marketers as they make their transition that really has helped you a lot?
Oh my God. You know what? I haven't followed a lot of marketing. I follow a lot of different people on LinkedIn.
Or a book. Book is always
Yeah.
I don't listen to any marketing podcasts actually.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one, Refine Labs with Chris Walker's their revenue R&D. It used to be Demand Gen Live. That's probably the best marketing podcast in my opinion.
I listened to that one. And honestly, I listened to more like consumer based ones because I'm motivated.
You learn more from them. That's how I got started, honestly.
I'm just motivated by inspiring leaders, honestly. And, anything you can learn from somebody who has built whatever it is from scratch with integrity and just that's where I get motivated. So I don't know if I could steer you into a medical one. I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Any marketing books that you like?
I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh no, I'm like not doing my marketers.
No, that's okay. We'll come back to that. Next question is, what was something that like a piece of advice that you got as marketing manager, marketing head, whatever it might be, that was like really painful for you to hear, but it changed you for the better?
Yes. Oh God. I just said it the other day. It was, Amanda, you wear your heart on your sleeve, your emotions on your sleeve. And I was like, well, isn't that a good thing? And the answer is, well, not when you're leading, right? Because marketing is a barometer of what's going on in the organization. And so if you're stressed, if the sky is falling, then the engineers see that, and the cross-functional teams who are taking your cues as a leader in the organization who understands what's going on externally, they're taking those cues as something is wrong, when that may not be the case. You could just be frustrated that, a technology, in lab didn't work one time, or, some sales rep called you and you didn't have the right answer or something like that. But that is a good one, is just as you switch to doer into player, coach into leader, it's be passionate, show your passion, but you are the barometer for the rest of the organization. So make sure that you are putting out the right message that you want everyone to receive.
Perfect. And then I guess last question for you is that if there was a text notification that went out to every marketer in MedTech that they got to see every day for the next year, what message would you put on there?
Oh God, be genuine, be clear, know your audience. And
Yeah,
you are
totally.
sales partners, be partners with your salespeople. You are part of commercial engine. I mean, it's just really summarizes what we talked about before.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the more marketing starts to embrace the fact that they drive commercial revenue, and like I think too many marketers, when the quarter ends and like numbers aren't hit, they kind of sit back and like, oh, what did sales not do? I'm like, well,
We
kind
own the
of,
number.
yeah,
We own it.
exactly.
And I've said it even to, I own our clinical, or responsible for building our clinical success team here. And I was like, guys, you're clinical, you have to be savvy. You're in there with the customers, you're launching the technology, but you are commercial. You're the face of the company when that customer experiences the technology. So we all own this. We all own this, and we have to feel that responsibility. We have to be responsive. If a customer needs us, we're there. Just like a sales rep would do. And so being called a sales representative is not a bad thing at all. And we all should be lucky to be called sales reps for our organization.
I totally agree. I always tell people, like, if sales is not trying to pull you into a demo or talk to like a prospective customer, then like I don't think you're good at your job. I think you have to be that good that like says like, hey, I really want so and so to be on this first call or on a demo or or something.
So right.
Yeah. No, 100%. Amanda, it's been awesome. Thanks for coming on and helping me kind of kick off our marketing series. We'll definitely have to have you back. How can people find you online?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. So just Amanda Bloom. I'm at Radiaction. That's the best way to contact me. You can also contact me through our Radiaction website. Very easy to get in touch. But yeah, web presence is key, as we talked about, being a marketer in this day and age. So very easy to find me. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. I may not know all the answers, but I can certainly give you some anecdotal experience, having been through a very unique path and seen a lot of different sides of the medical device world. So anyone who's up and coming or just wants a sounding board, I'm so pleased and happy to be that for anybody. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everybody who's been listening, first, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, scroll down. There's an area where we do polls, we take questions, especially on Spotify. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Let me know if you recommend anybody else. And as always, like if you've been a listener to the show and you haven't given us a review, shame on you, but I'll give you a pass. Take a second, give us a 5-star review, write a review that helps us stay number one and for more people to discover the podcast. So with that being said, I'm Omar Khateeb, your host for the State of MedTech, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you for enjoying another epic episode of the State of MedTech. If you're feeling inspired and love this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss an episode. And be sure to give us 5 stars and write a short review, because that helps more people discover this amazing community of ours. If you're a company who has a executive that you'd like to be on the show, or perhaps you want to sponsor one of the episodes, shoot us an email at hello@khateebandco.com. Take care, and we'll see you next time.